Rachel O'Connor, and Rachel is my partner in crime working on the Transforming Society training. And what we're going to do is give you a week in the life of somebody who's going through Transforming Society training. So Rachel, welcome to you.
Thanks very much.
And so this is just a screen recording so you can see what's happening. So the way that this is structured is there's an introduction, a meet and greet, and then we get into module 1. And the question is, what does your week look like over here? So Rachel, should we start with module 1 or do you want to start with the introduction?
Yeah, I think let's go module 1.
Okay, great. So on the introductory side, you're going to make a little video of yourself and you're going to explain who you are. That'll go up into a Dropbox or into the iLearning, and people will be able to see who's participating. And there's going to be 2 tracks, people who are focused on giants and people who are focused on geographies. Okay, Rachel, so talk us through. People register, they're on the class, they get added to the class, they're a student in the class, they click on module 1, then what happens?
Yeah, that's right, Britt. So you can see that the first little block there talks about the cohort allocation. So you'll be able to click in there. We won't find anything at the moment, but that'll be loaded with the information as to which cohort you're part of.
Right.
Then you can click through to the objectives, which will just document what it is we are aiming that you come out at the end of the particular module having learnt.
Right.
It'll just give you a sense of where we're going. And then we head into read, watch, listen. And in there, that'll direct you to the chapter that you need to read in the Transforming Society book, which if you don't have a hard copy of, you will have access to through the resources, which is there over on the left-hand side in that blue column.
So this is the heart of the thing, right? So we've got 20 weeks, but when it says module 1, then they're going after chapter 1. So they read chapter 1, in the introductory stuff there's some earlier things, but they read that chapter and this will link them to the book. And then they can just read that chapter. Great. Okay, what's this video thing over here?
So this here, you'll see there's like a thin one at the top with a play option and a play option on the square below. So you've got an option to either listen or to watch. So you may find it easier, you're driving to work and you want to listen in the car.
Oops. I'll pause that for a moment. Yeah.
You may want to sit and watch the beautiful faces. But each week we've got a kind of podcast interviews where you've been chatting to key people that are engaging with this or have got particular viewpoints or grappling with this stuff on a daily basis. And so it's just great to get some differing input, some real life experiences. So yeah, you basically choose. You either watch it or you listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then some weeks there may be additional things to watch. So week 1, several different video clips. They're really there just to inspire, to get you thinking a bit differently, to get you applying some of the thinking, again, into some real life scenarios. Some weeks it may be something to read. Some weeks there might not be a huge amount extra.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's an optional extra again on some weeks where there's just a further interview.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and so those international watches, this was the optional stuff, is I did a series of 10 interviews around Transforming Society in South Africa. So the host on that thing is an Afrikaans guy. So the introduction, you'll be able to practice your Afrikaans if you're from some other part of the world. Otherwise, just fast forward and get to the interview, and that'll take us to that particular point over there. So that's the read, watch, listen component. So we've been through the read, watch, and listen. And then there's some assignments that happen, right? So do we just click on any of these, Rachel? So they'll be in a cohort 1, 2, 3, 4. They'll have a cohort number, and they just have to go to their particular cohort. So say they're in cohort number 1, and it'll say, okay, so you've read the chapter, you've listened to the podcast, and there's an assignment. Now this over here is an individual assignment, right, Rachel?
Yeah, that's right. It's very user-friendly, or we hope it is. So you really should be able to just work out what you need to do as you read through. So you'll see here, you're answering a selection of questions. and you then going to upload those. This is part of a discussion. So you're going to answer some questions individually, but you're then going to post those to this platform, which will then post your answers so that other people can then read it, so that other people in your cohort will be able to see what your responses are. And as a result of that, there'll be a discussion further on in the course.
Fantastic. So that's an individual assignment. And then sometimes there's actually a group discussion that takes place in the cohort. So over here, for example, you said here's a cohort discussion that takes place, and so then as a cohort, they'll have a conversation about what it is they were looking at.
That's right, and I think I'm not sure what the scenario is in this one, but it will probably suggest that you could either have a WhatsApp conversation between your group, you could have a Zoom call. So you make it work for your group as to how and when you then have that discussion. There are some discussions where you will engage on that chat platform, and so it'll be a written conversation. So there's quite a lot of different kind of ways of doing things. We're trying to keep it interesting, and different ways to connect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. So once you've looked at what other people have, how they've responded, how people either in your cohort, and sometimes there's a peer review between cohorts and say, hey, what surprised you about what other people felt, and what are similarities, what are differences, and that's pretty much it. So that's what that one looks like. And then in some cases, if we picked another lesson, there would actually be a peer review between some of the cohorts. Rachel's also included a personal reflection over here. This will be almost a diary of sorts. What's a diary? Americans don't know what a diary is. We call it a journal over here. Dear diary.
Opportunity to reflect on your own scenario, your own thinking, and just make sure that you've got a chance to, I suppose, jot down any questions or make a note of the things that are changing as you go through the course. I think that's really helpful as we look back on the journey of what we've been through. The other thing to mention, Brett, just as at the end of those cohort discussions, what we've also got in there is just a place to then submit just a brief piece of writing, just a couple of sentences, just to document like your key takeaways from that discussion. Again, what have you learned? So really just to solidify it, to document it, so that you can look back over the process of the course and have just some key moments recorded. Make sure you're applying the discussion, that the discussion doesn't just flow away, after that was a nice conversation, but okay, what am I taking away from that? What am I learning?
So that's a week in the life. You do some reading, you do some discussion in your cohort, you compare with other cohorts, you put up a submission. So after you've done module 1, 2, and 3, then what happens, Rachel?
After that, the following week we'll jump on a Zoom call all together. So that's with all the other cohorts that are taking part in the course, along with Brett. And there will be a kind of big group discussion. There may be a presentation that's been part of one of the assignments that needs to be presented. There may be there are points where you're asked to come up with some questions in order to interview Brett with regards to some of the content. It may involve a little bit of a peer review of some of the assignments that you've seen from other cohorts. So again, a real mix of things, but a great opportunity to just connect with people in different spaces and different cohorts that are engaging in different places. And then that'll set you up ready for the next 3 modules.
So now you've seen a week in the life, and then a month in the life is you do 1, 2, 3. Number 4 is the group all together. Then for month number 2, you're picking up on 4, 5, and 6. And then once you've done 4, 5, 6, boom, there's another session. And so that continues. So there's 15 chapters, but 20 sessions, because every 4th session is a group session. And and sometimes you go ahead.
Sorry, just to mention, in those weeks where it's the Zoom call, what's also nice is that if you haven't managed to keep up with the material, you've got a week with a bit of extra grace to fit in and slot in some of the additional reading or the assignment, so you don't have to panic about getting behind and not being able to keep up.
Yeah. I can tell you one of the things I'm really excited about, and I've loved doing the interviews, and yesterday I finished the last one just to get it nailed down. It took us a while to get scheduled, but it was worth the wait, and this was on Foundations of Society. And so in every session, as Rachel has said, we have this interview with somebody who knows something about that particular area. And so part 7 is dealing with Foundations of Society. And many years ago, I was introduced by one of our alumni to Alistair Petrie, who's written this book, which is pretty much out of print now, but he's got 3 books to replace it, and we'll reference those, and you'll be able to see what those things are. So in this particular session, it's a conversation with Alistair, who's worked in 100 countries around the world, and he would be actually just sharing and talking. So you're going to love those interviews, those podcast interviews. So Rachel, that's the way it goes. And we're going to have, as we said, these 2 tracks. We're going to have people who are doing things focused on a giant. So you can have a cohort, pulling your own cohort together that says, I want to go after job creation on the Cape Flats in Cape Town. And somebody else might say, I want to go after access to communication technology. Somebody else might say, I really just want to focus on a geography. Here's a geography. I live in a city or town called George, or I live in a town called Palm Beach, Florida. I don't know if that needs transforming, probably. Wherever it might be. And so you can either have a geographic focus or a giant focus. It doesn't matter. You can choose that, and then you'll stick with your cohort as you work through these things. Rachel, have we missed anything? Is that pretty much a week and a month in the life?
I think that's pretty much it, Brett. Yeah.
Okay, great. So hopefully this gives a bit more information, and then if you have any questions, you can just contact us, and we can answer those questions. We are starting 15th of February in Somerset West with the cohorts there. We'll have some clusters meeting on a Monday evening. If you want to go and meet in person in Somerset West, you can do that if you're close by. And we'll have an international cohort meeting as well. And sometime that week we'll give you the timing just to fit with the people's calendars, depending what countries they're in. And so that's the informational week. It'll be kickoff. Make sure you understand, get through all the introduction stuff, the meet and greet, you get through these things. And then the first content week will be the 22nd, the week of the 22nd of February. And then we'll be running from there. So that's pretty much it, right, Rachel?
I think so.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Well, thanks for watching this week in the life, and hopefully this is helpful.